listening to Planet Vero Radio. I am Cindy Schwartz, and this is the Patient Partners Show. We are broadcast on 101.7 FM Real Radio WCZR, and we are podcast on Spreaker and distributed on its platforms. Jeannie Roller, my co-host, is with me today. We are talking, our topic for the listening audience is black boxes in hospital ORs. So we are all familiar with black boxes in airplanes and those kind of things, and certainly when horrific crashes or anything happens with that airline flight, you can go back and everything is recorded. So now we are supposedly introducing these. The healthcare industry is into the medical arena, and I am reading an article here. It is on Becker's Hospital Review, and the article is titled "Black Boxes Make Their Way into Hospital ORs," written by Mariah Taylor, and the article is from March 20th of 2023, and the first sentence says 24 hospitals in the U.S., Canada, and Western Europe are using black boxes to collect and analyze operating room practice data in hopes of reducing medical errors and improving patient safety and operating room efficiency. And that was reported in the Wall Street Journal on March 19th. And that's all verbatim. It's quoted from that exact paper. So, Jeannie, let's talk about that. The good, bad, indifference, the ugly, or whatever, of what these black boxes can, in our opinion, help or hinder or whatever in the OR.
Okay, well, my thought when I read the article that I have was that they mentioned that the medical personnel weren't real comfortable with the idea of being filmed as they were doing their job. There was no mention of the patient's perspective, if the patient would be uncomfortable with having their procedure and everything that happens filmed. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was so one-sided that, you know, it's typical, in my opinion, of the medical community. They do not think about the patient's point of view.
Okay, so we all know, we've talked about so many times on the informed consent paperwork, there is a place that has a box that you can check, uncheck. Some of them you can uncheck. You know, we talk about that too, of the video recording style going on in your operating room, in your surgery. So is that covered now with the black box being introduced? What's the difference, do you think? What was the old video equipment and the old audio equipment in an OR as opposed to using this black box technology now?
Well, I don't think there's any difference. I think the blanket clause or phrase would cover this too. I mean, it clearly says, and on most forms that I've seen, there isn't an option to uncheck it or check it. It's just on there, and that's that. But I think that they believe that blanket clause would cover it.
Okay, so we have to do more investigation into that if those informed consent paperworks are going to be revised to include this. So let's get to the crux of it, why you're doing it. The ending quote on this, and it's from a Dr. David Feldman, Chief Medical Officer at Healthcare Risk Advisors, says, "I believe it will make surgery safer and thus reduce liability and malpractice claims," he says. So what we talk about isn't malpractice. We talk about the transparency and the accountability of these things. So I wonder if this is going to help with that or hinder. Certainly nobody wants to have their stuff videotaped. I'm talking about workers. You know, we all kind of feel that way because now you're literally under the microscope. But is it going to help the patient? That's what my first thought was, if it would actually help the patient in the long run to have a better surgery, a more pleasant surgery, you know, to know what's actually going on. I honestly don't know. I really don't.
Well, hopefully that is what it will do. I mean, that they will hopefully learn from the things that they do incorrect, that they will see things that are done correctly, and then maybe use them in other procedures or other hospitals or whatever. That would be my hope, that they would use this information as a learning experience. But then again, I still feel that the patient should have the choice to say yes or no, even though the the camera system is supposed to blur their faces and cartoonify the bodies. So it said in an article, Wall Street Journal. Does it really? What if the area being worked on is a breast? Will it cartoonify it or not? That's the question.
I think if you look at some of the YouTube videos, there are ones out there that have surgeries and stuff, you can see that it is blurred. I mean, I've seen those YouTube videos when I was looking up for certain surgeries or whatever, so I knew what I was kind of getting into. It definitely was blurred. I mean, that's what this says. So a quote, it says, "The OR black box made by Surgical Safety Technologies in Toronto gathers video, audio, patient vital signs, and data from surgical devices during surgery. Audio and video are de-identified, giving participants blurred faces and cartoonish bodies, according to the report. Hospitals can use the data to view performance over time or to analyze particular operations." So, yes, on my particular informed consent, I said that I did not want to be videotaped. As far as I know, that was honored. But I honestly don't know. I mean, I don't know. I have to take them at face value, but a lot of the other stuff I couldn't take them at face value. So, I mean, it brings up a valid point from you, Jeannie. I mean, my opinion is I don't really know what to trust anymore. Honestly, I don't want to sound that way, but it seems like people are listening and trying to come up with different ideas on how to make it a better surgery. But then it also goes on, which I did not like to read, that says now it makes it faster, easier to turn that OR over to the next surgery. And I cringed when I read that. What do you think?
Well, yeah, I would hesitate to think that is good for the patient. It might be good for the facility, but it may not be so good for the patient.
Yeah. That was from Duke University. The Duke teams, and I'm quoting again, have also found new ways to increase operating room efficiency and productivity by reducing the amount of time to prepare an operating room for the next procedure. Yeah. The health system is considering using the box as a teaching tool for nurses' OR training. So, I mean, that would be a good thing, too. Is technology a part of our everyday life? Absolutely. I mean, I'm sitting here surrounded by technology. We actually have those cameras that you can block out and skew faces, identify whatever the cameras that I use and that kind of thing. So I know that technology exists. You can skew somebody's face so you don't know who they are. Do they do it? I mean, hopefully, I would think that they would do that, absolutely. So it's just something else, in the OR that hopefully makes things better. It progresses things, and it does make it more transparent. Black boxes definitely make it transparent in the aviation industry, I think. I mean, how else will you know what happens, if there are no survivors from a horrific plane crash?
Right. But that black box is a different purpose than the OR black box.
Right.
They don't want to know if something went wrong for legal purposes or investigation purposes. These black boxes are being used entirely for the benefit of that hospital system.
But how can you? I mean, I don't know that much about the technology of this specific black box. How can you stop that? If that black box is started the minute the operation starts, then everything would be on it, I would think. The good, bad, and indifferent.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true. And if an operation goes wrong, they're not going to turn that black box over to investigators. Say in a malpractice suit, they've already said that they won't. So if an operation goes wrong, they're probably going to hit the delete button right away.
Yeah, but we don't know that. I mean, it's got to be your opinion, Jeannie.
Don't.
Yeah, we don't know that.
That is my opinion.
Yeah. Anyway, on that note, black boxes in the OR. That's something to think about. You've been listening to Planet Vero Radio. Stay tuned.